Hi everyone, welcome back to Governminute. You know, as of today, January 22nd, President Trump has been back in office, 2 whole days. We could do a whole segment, a whole show on President Trump's actions so far, but that's got to wait. We got to talk about something that happened before his inauguration. We'll tell you what that is next, because Governminute starts right now. Hello Raindrops, new subscribers, and old friends, and welcome back to Governminute, Minutes That Matter. This is Mr. A joining you for another edition of Governminute, where we look at issues and headlines about our government. As always, this video is dedicated to the glory of God who blessed this land. January 20th, usually on presidential inauguration day, nothing other than the inauguration newsworthy takes place. Something happened this week that needs to be looked at and needs to be talked about. And this is another edition of Governminute Solutions. We're going to talk about reforming the pardon power. Now, when I first made my notes for this video, the only pardon that I had come up with as far as that had an issue to it was President Biden's pardon of his son that we talked about, that I mentioned a while back. But since then, new pardons have come out that really brings this into focus and why it needs to be reformed, why we need to solve this problem of presidential pardons. All right, the pardon power is enshrined in our Constitution. It is a way, a check or a balance, a way for our executive branch of government to stop an out of control judicial branch. Okay, remember, checks and balances were built into the system in order to stop one branch of government from becoming too powerful. And the pardon power was given to the executive branch, the president, in order that cases that are where defendants are railroaded or unjustly accused or unjustly convicted, the president has the opportunity to right that by pardoning the defendant in order that real justice may be served. So it is a good thing, and it should be preserved. The pardon power is, well, you got to go back to your trusty handy-dandy Constitution. The pardon power is in Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, and it says, "And he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment." So that's right. The president can only pardon or grant reprieves on offenses against the United States, federal law. State laws, no, but governors have that power for state laws. But the president's power only applies to federal law. So with the most recent example of questionable pardons, including President Biden's son, Hunter, and on January 20th, right before President Trump took the oath of office, Joe Biden, while sitting in the rotunda, waiting for the inauguration to happen, he pardoned his brother, James, and his wife, Sarah, his sister, Valerie, and her husband, John, and his brother, Francis, for any crimes, nonviolent crimes, that they may have committed from January 1st, 2014, until January 20th, 2025. 11 years. 11 years in 19 days. Why? He claims it's because that he felt like President Trump would go after his family and make it to try to get back at Joe Biden for what Joe Biden's Justice Department did to President Trump. But a Supreme Court case basically said, if you accept a pardon, you are admitting guilt. Now, here's the deal. A president can grant a pardon. The defendant does not have to take it, does not have to accept it. The Supreme Court case, which I referenced earlier, did say the ruling was that if you accept a pardon, you are admitting guilt. So what did these people do for 11 years that they needed to be pardoned for? It's a very good question. We talked about Hunter Biden's cases, gun charges, and tax evasion. Talked about those already. But Hunter Biden had already been either pled guilty or was going to trial for his crimes. These people have not even been charged with anything. So here's how I suggest we reform the pardon power so that we get away from these very questionable and just bad looking pardons. Okay, it's not a good look. All right, so here's what I think we should have. Number one, no preemptive pardons. Now, of course, we'd have to amend the Constitution for all this, but it can be done. No preemptive pardons. A pardon should only be used to correct an unjust conviction and or sentence after the judicial process has been played out. Here's what's going to happen if this becomes the norm, if this becomes how things are done. A nefarious president will get into office, tell a group of people, hey, do this, do that, enrich us all, make sure I'm included, and then right before I leave office, I'll pardon all of you for any crimes you may have committed. And this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to turn into a big criminal enterprise with a pardon at the end. Number two, in election years, okay, that's every 2 years. Every 2 years, there's federal elections. No pardons after September 30th. You remember federal elections are held the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So as early as November 2nd and as late as November 8th. Okay? So no pardons after September 30th unless the conviction or sentence is rendered after October 1st. All right? So any convictions before or sentences before September 30th, you cannot pardon. You cannot pardon. This gives the electorate time to determine whether or not they believe a pardon is worthy, a worthy one or not, and be able to reflect their view in the upcoming election. And we can pick them up again January 1st the next year. No pardons for anyone that donates money to the chief executive or their party after an indictment. This gives the appearance of quid pro quo. I'm indicted for something, and my president, the guy I support, is in office, and he's running for re-election. I get indicted, and I know I'm going to probably get convicted. So I'm going to make a huge check out to him, the party, etc., etc., and then bam, gosh, imagine that, I get a pardon. Okay? It gives the appearance of a quid pro quo. You do this, I'll do that. And so that needs to be avoided. No pardons for any family member or members of someone that donates money to the chief executive or their party after the indictment of said family member. Right? Same thing. Not just the person, but their family member. Now, what does family include? How far do we want to go with this? So, my idea, Governminute Solutions idea, is family members include immediate family, like spouse, children and their spouses, grandchildren. Also includes siblings, their spouses, aunts and uncles, cousins, up to second cousin, and all in-laws of those listed. All right? So basically, no pardons for family members if this person, the indicted person, has given money, or any member of that family has given money to the chief executive or the party. Now, let's talk about the pardon that just came up on January 20th. So, I think that this needs to be taken out of the president's hands for his family. This includes the president and vice president's family, which includes parents, if still alive, siblings and their spouses, children and their spouses, nieces, nephews, and grandchildren of the president and vice president. Now, should they get a fair shot at a pardon? Yes, they should. And here's what I propose, the Governminute solution to the pardon issue. In the case of family pardons, the chief executive, if they believe a pardon is warranted, shall make his or her case advocating for the pardons to a pardon review board consisting of a 5-person panel of retired jurists appointed to a period of 3 years with staggered appointments set to expire one every year. So basically it'd be 5 people, and every year you replace one person. All right? And these 5 people would have to vote, and if a majority votes 3-2, then the pardon can be granted to a family member of the president or vice president. These pardons don't pass the smell test, especially for unspecified charges. Right? These people may not be guilty of anything. So by accepting the pardon, as stated in that Supreme Court case, they are admitting their guilt. Their guilt of what? We'll have to see. All right, that's a Governminute solution. This is Mr. A reminding you that we, the people, are the government. I hope you paid attention. There will be a test at the next election. See you next time.